It's about 9:30 p.m. on Sunday, February 1st, and I want to take a moment and acknowledge several really encouraging, important stories in the news today. In this long fight against fascism, and I would hope most Americans are aware that it's going to be a long fight, right? There's no quick way out of this. We need a lot of endurance, and part of that, gaining endurance for ourselves, is acknowledging every single win along the way. The path to victory is long, and we are chipping away at fascism bit by bit. There is no one grand sweeping gesture that's going to flip all of this over, wake us all up from this nightmare. Nope. It is incremental progress. It is chipping away at the pillars of support. It is refusing to concede anywhere along the way. It is holding the line for democracy and then pushing back against the authoritarians. That's a long, exhausting road, and I'm sorry, I wish there was a different way out of this, but we are all capable. We are strong, we are capable, we are organizing, we are building our muscles, and there's so much good that can come out of that for all of us. Because in America, we're so separated, right? We have all of this toxic individualism. We are so fragmented. But what we're doing right now is we are building community. We are building solidarity. We are coming together as working class people and realizing we deserve so much more than what the system has been willing to extend to us. We are in this moment where we can dream bigger for ourselves and help bring those dreams about, help make those dreams a reality. If we think that we can only celebrate huge, massive wins, then we don't understand how authoritarians are defeated, and we don't understand how to sustain ourselves in this moment, in this movement, and for the long term. We have to count our wins, and there were several today. And before I get into what they were, and I will probably miss some because there are more good things happening every day than people realize, right? So many of the most impactful ways that we push back against fascism and that we gain ground never make the news. We never hear of them. They happen very locally. They happen in really anonymous ways that seem really inconspicuous but are chiseling away, undermining the regime. So if you're not hearing about it in the news, please understand that's because the news doesn't want you to hear the good stories. The regime, the propaganda wing of the regime, corporate legacy media, they don't want you to know. They don't want you to feel encouraged. They don't want you to know what victories to celebrate. The regime wants you to think they're all big and powerful and that they're winning everywhere. They don't want you to know that they're actually a bunch of pathetic fucking losers and that we, the people, have the power. We, the people, are going to be victorious. And we are victorious on some level, every single day, all across the country in so many ways. Regular, ordinary Americans are gaining little victories against fascism, and those add up. That's death by 1,000 cuts to the regime. Okay, thanks for letting me pontificate about that a little bit. I know that sometimes people are like, okay, well, Greg Bovino left, but Tom Homan's really bad, and ICE isn't out of Minnesota. I understand that. It's an incremental victory. We made the regime do something that they didn't want to do. We held the line. We refused to buy their lies. They had to concede. They had to make changes because the people were so outraged. Doesn't mean that we give up. We celebrate a victory and then we say, oh yeah, we need some more of these. Let's go get some more of these. So the first one is that Liam Ramos and his dad were released from the awful, awful concentration camp in Dilley, Texas, and are back home. That's a victory for human rights. It's a victory for Liam and his family. And please understand, you helped bring that victory about. You did that. To me, the story is not only that Liam and his dad are out of that horrible, horrible facility. To me, the real victory is that we demonstrated our power. We showed what happened when hundreds of thousands of people came together and made a giant fucking stink over ICE abducting a little boy in a little blue puppy hat. He would never have been released. His dad would never have been released if hundreds of thousands of us had not been contacting our elected officials, had there not been a protest outside the Dilley facility, had there not been people making an absolute outrage everywhere over this. Public pressure is the only reason that they got released. Our members of Congress are not going to move unless we put tremendous pressure on them to do the right thing. Congress, they don't lead. They follow our lead, and they will only go where we push them. Outrage from us caused the regime to have to make this move, to have to give up this kid and his dad that they didn't want to give up. They wanted everybody to think, we can snatch little kids off the street. We can use little children as bait, and you can't fucking stop us. They didn't want us to push back. They wanted us to be afraid when we saw that and say, I'm going to keep my kids inside. And instead, what they got was hundreds of thousands of pissed off Americans. And so they had to release him. Please understand, this is a prime example of how the regime is not untouchable, that the people actually have the power. And when we come together and we wield it together, our force is unstoppable. We can make a fascist regime do things, including make them lose. We're going to make them lose. Okay. On to two stories that are connected. They both come out of Texas. As you may have heard, there was a stunning upset when a Texas Democrat named Taylor Ramos flipped a Republican state Senate seat in a district that Donald Trump won by 17 points. Republicans are fucking shook. Republicans in Texas and around the country they're pissing their pants over this. Also, please understand, elections are happening all of the time. Elections are happening and Democratic candidates are getting elected. So stop saying we're never having elections again. Stop saying Democrats can't win because everything is rigged. Sure, Democrats are trying to undermine free and fair elections, but when we get large turnout of the American people, we still can have our will expressed through the ballot box, and it's more important than ever. We know. Look at Chile, look at Serbia. Toppling authoritarian regimes requires, and especially in this instance with the midterms coming up, it's an inflection point. Midterms, big elections, inflection point. We know that mass voter turnout is a key element in toppling an authoritarian, in halting a would-be authoritarian from consolidating power. One of the things that absolutely tickles me pink over this is the fact that the Republican Lee Wamsgans outspent the Democratic candidate 20-1. It shows that money can't buy elections. Conservative money pumping into this election didn't make a lick of difference. Also, really quickly here, I've seen a little bit of misunderstanding about the voter turnout. People said, oh, well, the only reason that Ramos won in this district that went crazy big for Trump and has had a Republican in that seat for 30 years is because there must have been low Republican turnout in this election. And the data doesn't back that up. In fact, the data should be very worrying for Republicans. It's because independents came out and they voted for the Democratic candidate, and some Republicans voted for the Democratic candidate. Yeah, so Republicans are shaking in their booties when the Democratic candidate flipped a seat that had been red for like 30 years and had gone plus 17 for Donald Trump. And he didn't just squeak out a win, he won by like more than 14 percentage points. The Republicans spent 20 times what he did, and still independent and Republican voters voted for the Democratic candidate. If that holds true across the country, Republicans are so fucked. They're so fucked. And Republicans know this, so we should expect them to really up the underhanded efforts to subvert the midterms. And in any way that they can, they're going to work on voter suppression and disenfranchising voters. And I fully expect Donald Trump to try and claim that the results of the election are not legitimate. We need to be crafting a plan to defend free and fair elections, defend the election results, make sure that duly elected representatives are seated after the midterms. The other news is that Republicans' margin in the House is shrinking even further. There was a special election in Texas to fill a seat for Representative Sylvester Turner, who passed away in office. It's been vacant for 11 months. We could talk about Democrats and their gerontocracy problem. I mean, I have, and I'll keep talking about it. Democrats have a gerontocracy problem. So Christian Menefee was elected to the seat, and it was a blue seat. It was expected to stay blue. But a vacant seat meant no vote. And so now that he's filling that, it means that the margin in the House is 218 Republicans, 214 Democrats. And Thomas Massie has been defecting from the Republicans. Mike Johnson is in a position where he cannot lose any votes. Nobody can peel off and vote with the Democrats. His grasp on power over the House is extremely tenuous right now. It's not a good scene for closeted Keebler elf Mike Johnson. And the last piece of good news today. At the Grammys tonight, Bad Bunny stood up to accept his award for Album of the Year, I believe. And he said, before I say thanks to God, I'm going to say ice out. And I think while this musician's speech was really important in and of itself, it's part of a bigger picture. We are seeing celebrities willing to be more outspoken, taking up time in interviews on the red carpet to speak out against ICE. Yeah, they're wearing buttons, small performative gestures, but some of them are making much bigger gestures, using their platforms in a way that condemns the regime and speaks frankly about the reality of what ICE is doing in this country and speaks out on defense of immigrants. That's a big shift. That's a big shift. It's becoming more normalized in Hollywood, I think, and amongst musicians in celebrity culture for folks to use their platforms. And not just them, also we've seen a number of athletes and coaches over the last couple of weeks doing what they should be doing, which is lending whatever skills and platform and voice they have to the resistance. Having the wealthy and powerful with a platform on our side is really important. All of these wins today, really important.